Hi, everybody. Welcome to our latest episode of Carolina Rides. Here is where we're going to have some fun. We're going to talk a little racing. However, we're going to talk racing in a different way or different ways. Because you know what? NASCAR, yeah, you've heard of them. They race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And what happens the rest of the year, you might ask? Well, believe it or not, a lot. Probably more than you might imagine. Certainly more than I thought, which is why I went ahead and booked our current guest. Let's welcome Jonathan Coleman. He's the Senior Director of Communications for the Charlotte Motor Speedway. How you doing today?
Doing great, doing great. Appreciate you giving me a chance to jump on and talk about all the things we've got going on out here.
Yeah, I mean, what's one of the things, and as I mentioned, everybody knows what the Charlotte Motor Speedway is, but in conversations I've had with you, it's not like you guys just shut it down the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It's baffling to me how often we get the question, what do you guys do the other 50 weeks a year when you're not running a NASCAR race for the Coca-Cola 600 or the Bank of America Roval 400? And the short answer is everything. We call ourselves America's home for racing because we've got the first purpose-built four-lane drag strip. We've got a 4/10 mile clay oval. We've got tracks within the oval here at the primary speedway where we're running grassroots racing series. We just in April opened up a brand new road course, the 10 Motor Club, just across the street. Whether it's dirt racing or asphalt racing, straight line, oval track, road course, we've got all of that covered. And really that just kind of scratches the surface. We've got weddings and proms, we've got car shows and graduations, all sorts of things throughout the year that are keeping us busy here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Now, you mentioned weddings and proms. That is something that I certainly wasn't aware of, and I'm sure there's a lot of people and some diehard NASCAR fans who weren't aware of that sort of thing either. How does that work? I mean, if somebody wants to kind of do something like that, what do they do?
Yeah, so whether it's race weekend and you're doing something out in the campgrounds or in the fan zone, or one of our best kept secrets, the Speedway Club is actually a white linen fine dining facility that's here overlooking the racetrack, and it's got some space as well that you could have a reception or a really high end wedding, prom, business meetings, whatever the case may be. So if you check out our website, charlottemotorspeedway.com, you can get linked up with all kinds of different opportunities. Again, whether that's weddings or business meetings, steam tours for children, school-age children, field trips, anything and everything. We're happy to host and have folks out here to experience a little bit of the behind the scenes that's happening throughout the year.
Let's talk about those steam tours just a little bit. I mean, that is something else that I'm sure some people are familiar with it. Some people may be familiar with the fact that their children can actually go on a field trip to the track. But I think that's another thing that a lot of teachers, parents, students might be interested in. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so throughout the year, we'll host about 20 to 25,000 students. So it's almost every day where we're integrating field trip activities, hands-on learning to both teach kids about ideas of science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics within the motorsport space, and hopefully introduce a lot of new folks and future fans that may learn about things like acceleration and force of motion and how that comes to life and why that's important in a motorsports venue, and then again want to come back and see a race and understand why these different principles matter and how they help the drivers that they see on Sundays go out there and win the race.
And again, that goes kind of beyond just the knowledge of just normal science. It could also, and also building fans, it could also build careers, especially considering that not just the science part of it, but we're talking about a career, especially with automotive mechanics, for example, where that's something that the industry needs more people.
Yeah, and especially here in Charlotte, because so many of the race teams are based right here, within an hour and a half, 2 hours of Charlotte Motor Speedway. We're doing our part, I guess, to try to help spark a little of that interest and imagination, because every race team needs an engineer. Every race team needs somebody that can do graphic design to design those beautiful paint schemes. Every team needs the pit crew folks, and needs to understand the importance of good nutritional eating and weightlifting and exercise and those sorts of things to be able to perform at that peak level. So it is absolutely, geared toward introducing folks that may not be familiar to the Speedway, and then also, the motorsports industry and all the different career opportunities that may exist for them somewhere down the line.
Are there particular age groups that this is aimed at? Are we looking at a large array where it kind of depends on, it's like you might have third graders, you might have high schoolers?
Right. Yeah. And we can really tailor those lessons. It's primarily more for the elementary and middle school ages. Just because on a field trip, there's really only so much you can kind of get into that, it's harder to cover a high school curriculum in a 2 or 3 hour visit to the Speedway. But certainly there's opportunities to tailor different experiences if there was a group of older students who are interested in coming out.
And from my understanding, I mean, you've actually drawn people from schools from quite a way around the Charlotte area, really.
Yeah, it really, it has really exploded since about 2020, 2021, when it was primarily just regional schools. But we've got kids now coming from all across North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia as well that can make that day trip and be able to come down and kind of experience a really unique venue and a really unique field trip opportunity.
If somebody's watching this, whether they're in the upstate of South Carolina, Western North Carolina, or even beyond, if they are a student or a parent or a teacher and they're interested in something like that, maybe it's a teacher who wants to set something up or a student wants to go to their teacher and tell them about it, what needs to be done in order to make sure that their school can get involved?
Yeah, check out our website, charlottemotorspeedway.com. You can get a full rundown of everything that we've got going on, whether those are daily tours or, special events like a steam tour or any of our major event as well. And through that, you can find a link specifically for the STEAM visits. You can find a link to our STEAM page and reach out to those folks. There it is right there, in fact. So, you can give us a call or shoot us an email and kind of let us know, obviously, the size of your group, if there's, rough time frames, whether that's time of year or amount of time that you would have to be able to join us on property, knowing that you've got to get them back home to catch the bus at the end of the school day. We can tailor those experiences for whatever class size and whatever period of time you may be able to join us.
That is awesome. And that is something I wish I had the chance to do when I was of that age. I mean, we went to museums and stuff, but the ability to do something that is almost hands-on-ish seems like it's just a glorious learning opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very much the hands-on piece. And then also obviously the chance to experience the racetrack. And, people don't necessarily understand from TV that the high banks or the tight corners of the Roval and that sort of thing. So again, to be able to, to open up some eyeballs and help educate the next generation of fans, it's a really unique thing that we get to do. And it's a really cool opportunity when you can sort of step back and see the kids have those wow moments when they're climbing up those 24-degree bankings in the corners, or when they're seeing the little race cars that they've built race down the tracks, that sort of thing. It's a really cool thing to be a part of.
And it's not just about, children coming to visit the tracks. There are several programs for adults as well. If you could give me, well, first off, let's start with those who are just interested in cars and maybe showing off their cars. Let's start with your cars and coffee that you do. Again, that was something I had heard of, but in passing, I didn't realize it had gotten as big as it got. Tell me a little bit about that.
I'm not sure when we first thought up the idea or thought we threw our name out there in the ring that we were quite aware of how big it was going to be. We knew that there was a strong car culture in and around the Charlotte area. But to open up, basically we open up our fan zone on the third Saturday of each month. It's a completely free event, so you can bring out your cars and you'll see everything from, top of the line sports car, Ferraris, McLarens, Lamborghinis, to rust bucket projects that somebody's just gotten, and they're too excited to get out and show it off, even before they've maybe gotten the spit shine on there. So we're looking at upwards of 1,000 cars most months now. It's a little weather dependent. It's a free event, so it's you may wake up in the morning and go, no, I want to sleep a little longer. But it's a fun way to experience really every aspect of the car and the car culture, to build community, and we've had folks that are happy to jump up early in the morning from the upstate and make the trip up to Charlotte and spend some time with us and show their car off for a few hours. And there are lots of car clubs, so they'll meet up off property somewhere and kind of do their own little morning cruise in and park all together for a couple hours, and then head back down the road and on to the next thing. So it's not always about the gearheads. There's a lot of folks that just appreciate the artfulness of the car, or there are folks that just appreciate the camaraderie and the community of being around fellow car enthusiasts. So it's been a really unique event, a really neat chance for folks to come together and just spend some time with us. Again, whether or not you're a NASCAR fan or a drag racing fan or a dirt racing fan, if you appreciate the automobile, you have some story, that everybody remembers their first car, that sense of freedom when they pulled out of the driveway and left nervous parents standing in the front yard. I think to be able to relive that month after month through a Cars and Coffee event is a lot of fun.
Yeah, especially the eastern upstate, and on a weekend when you're not dealing with the rush hour traffic getting either out of here or into Charlotte. It doesn't take long to get there. How big an event is it now in terms of, roughly how many cars are you seeing at these things?
Yeah, so we've got about a 10-acre parking lot that's right out in front of our facility, and we can park about 1,000 cars, 1,100 cars, and it is not uncommon for us to be parking them on the grass or squeezing them into tight little nooks and crannies anywhere kind of around the fan zone as well. So it has definitely grown over the years. We've been very fortunate that the culture itself has, word of mouth has gotten out there, and folks have started talking about us and have marked their calendars so they know every third Saturday we're going to get up early and head out to Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Sounds great. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the tours that are offered and some of the other experiences that you can get at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Carolina Rides. Again, we're joined by Jonathan Coleman. He is the Senior Director of Communications for the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And we've been talking about the fact that there's a lot to do at the Speedway, even when the racing isn't at home. And one of the things we're going to talk about now are some of the tour opportunities. If you've been there for a race, you've seen some stuff. But if you've been there for a race and you haven't gone behind the scenes, or maybe you just haven't been in the building at all, what are some of the opportunities people have to go check out the facility?
Yeah, we talked about the STEAM program and the young folks, but I think we're all young at heart, especially behind the wheel of a car. So, whether you're 8 or 80, we want to be able to provide a great experience. So we have tailored several different tour opportunities that let folks learn a little bit more about the history of the Speedway. We've been around since 1960. We're purpose-built to run NASCAR's first, and for the last 65 years, only 600-mile race. But there's a lot that goes into that. There's a lot that goes into bringing a race weekend to life, and fans really enjoy the trip down history lane and kind of that sneak peek behind the curtain. So we've got daily tours where you can come jump in a 15-passenger van with one of our tour guides and get a little cruise around the property, see all the different race facilities, learn about the history, see the media center, jump out and take a picture in Victory Lane. But then we also recognize that some people also want to get out there and feel the wind in their hair a little bit. So we even have a couple of tours where folks can drive their own vehicles, take paced laps around the Speedway itself, and be able to let loose a little bit and have a little fun for themselves.
Now, that is one of the other things that I was not aware of at the time, was the fact that people could actually basically bring their own to the racetrack. How weird does that get? Because I'm sure there are stories about some people who have probably wanted to lap the pace car, and then there are some times that there's, hey, look, it's mommy's minivan that's out there.
That's right. Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. We had one just a couple of weeks ago with one of our Cars and Coffee, in conjunction with one of our Cars and Coffee events. And it's always fun to sit down in the infield, sit right on pit road, and see the collection of cars that come through, because somebody may have the new Corvette, that they want to get out there and stretch its legs a little bit. And then right behind him is, like you said, it's mom's minivan, and they're just taking a family cruise around the track. So it's always a fun time to see, everybody can appreciate, and the freedom that comes with being able to drive a car. Everybody will enjoy, maybe to different degrees and at different speeds, but getting to drive around in the same tire tracks as NASCAR legends like Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt and Jimmy Johnson. That is an experience that not everyone gets to enjoy, but it certainly makes for a fun and memorable experience when they can come out to Charlotte Motor Speedway on those select days and get to be part of NASCAR and motorsports history.
Let's talk more specifically about a couple of the other tours here, because I mean, you mentioned there are several different options, like the Feel the Thrill Speedway Tour.
Yeah, yeah. I think, again, each tour, we want to make it as accessible and as approachable for any fan that may come by, whether they're coming to spend the weekend at the Charlotte area and visit race shops and run down to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and if they're going to be here for the afternoon, we've got a little bit longer tour, so it'll take you over to the dirt track, and you can actually take a run down the drag strip. But there are others that may just be passing through. They may be on their way from from the upstate, up to Virginia or up to DC or wherever the case may be, and they just want to take a quick little break and stretch their legs. So we've got other tours that are a little bit more condensed. You're in the van a little bit more, getting that history and that recap of all that is Charlotte Motor Speedway. So it's really just about tailoring to the fans. What do you have time to experience? What are you most interested in experiencing? And finding the right fit for each and everybody that comes to visit.
And for anybody who's interested in any of that, one more time, we all go to the website, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, CharlotteMotorspeedway.com is definitely your hub for all of the information of the different experiences. As you can see, we've got that experiences tab, so you can read through and figure out, do you want the infield tour? Do you want the U-Drive experience? What are you looking for, to make the most of your time with us? You can find it with the schedules and calendars and everything else there on CharlotteMotorspeedway.com.
That is great. Now, also, for those who want to be, let's say, even a little bit more hands-on than just kind of hanging around the track and, okay, you maybe get a paced lap with your own car. That would be great. That would be cool. But for those who maybe have a little bit more of that need for speed, I know there are several race schools that run out of the track. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The adrenaline junkies galore need to check out, whether it's the NASCAR Racing Experience, which actually has kind of older, we'll call them retired stock cars that are either you can drive yourself or you can actually ride shotgun with a professional driver. Not like a current professional NASCAR driver, because NASCAR's got big rules in place about testing and would limit that. But a lot of these guys may have been test drivers for NASCAR teams, or they're former drivers from secondary series, that sort of thing. And they're gonna give you the thrill of a lifetime for sure, whether that's the NASCAR Racing Experience or a relatively new one that's been around just for the last 3 or 4 years with us, is the Ford Performance Driving School. And they're actually out not just on the oval and the roval tracks, but they actually spend some time over at the drag strip for some of their programs, that they cone off sections of the parking lot, or may go over to 1010's Motor Club and give you a completely different taste of road course racing. So there are, again, just tons of opportunities to be able to sort of customize your experience and give you, whether it's the passenger princess that's riding along in a paced lap in your own personal car, or getting behind the wheel of a NASCAR stock car and really experiencing the adrenaline of life at 150 plus miles an hour.
Now, how much time during the week do these race schools have the track? Because I know I know you guys have a lot of other things going on. Obviously, they want to get their time in. For somebody who's interested, is that something that, it's on weekends? Is it only on weekdays? I mean, how does that work out?
Yeah. Yeah, so it really depends on the school, and you really hit the nail on the head. The biggest challenge that we have as a speedway is track time, because there are so many different things that are happening, whether that's open to the public like these driving schools, or private events, private commercial shoots, whatever the case may be. So it really ranges. There's not, unlike Cars and Coffee, there's not really a set schedule for a lot of the driving schools. But I would say Ford Performance Racing School is out here almost 100 days a year. So that's weekdays, weekends. They're all over the place. The NASCAR racing experience is a little bit more exclusive. It's a few times, I'd say a few times a season, probably 8-10 times a year. Typically that's on a weekend, just to make it a little bit easier. Their driving schools and sessions are all different. So if you're just coming out to take a ride, you may just be here at the Speedway for an hour. If you're looking to drive, they have, I think it's a half a day driving school and a full day driving experience. So, I would, again, just encourage folks to check out the website and kind of figure out the dates and what works for them, to make the most of their time with us.
Yeah, it just popped up the website one. That special racing school section where you can see there's NASCAR racing experience, Richard Petty driving experience, Ford Performance Racing School, Buck Baker's Seat Time Racing School, the Extreme Experience. You've got book now buttons. You've got phone numbers to reach people. It's all right there.
Absolutely, yeah.
One question I have, and it actually has to do with, because I was looking, something like this would always seem to make a wonderful gift for somebody. And, Christmas is not that far away in the grand scheme of things. And I noticed it's like every year I look at the Extreme Experience, and because my wife is a partial gearhead as well. And she's always said, oh, it'd be great to take it, drive a Ferrari or a Lamborghini around the track. And that's one of those things that you can do that.
It is, yeah. My wife is not that person. She is not a gearhead. But I got her one of the racing experience, just got a gift certificate and said, hey, we'll figure out when you want to do it and we can run out to the track and it'll be a great thing. Not all of us can afford a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. So it's great to be able to have those kind of driving schools that come out and be able to get out there and just experience it, just to feel, what the high end of luxury performance automotive feels like, and it's a really unique experience. Definitely, if you've got gearheads in your life, and you're looking for that one of a kind Christmas present, that's a fantastic idea for sure.
Yeah, I've seen that too, because I had researched that particular thing. And just to remind everybody that, like, some of these schools are running all the time, something like that, it's very limited. I mean, they may only be out there once a year over the course of the better part of a day on a weekend. So you got to get your time in and got to plan ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's that is definitely the case, and that's, again, not to sell Christmas presents, but that's a great thing about a gift certificate, is you can give that gift and then let them kind of plan what the rest of their experience looks like, and build in a trip down to the NASCAR Hall of Fame or to some of the local race shops, and really be able to personalize a really cool weekend here in Charlotte.
Now, I'm the one who brought it up, so if you can feel free to sell it. I was the one who pushed you into it. All right, one more time. Anybody, because we can't say this enough, anybody who wants to know anything about the track, any of the programs, or want to sign up for anything, they want to have their prom, they want to have a wedding, just all head to the website.
Absolutely, yeah. CharlotteMotorspeedway.com. And listen, if we've missed something, we're always open to host a new first. So if there's something that you think, well, this would be really cool with the backdrop of a speedway, don't hesitate to reach out and let us see what we can do to help make that a reality.
That is awesome. Jonathan, I want to thank you for being our guest. Of course, spoiler alert, you're going to see him again in a couple weeks, because we are going to have a special episode where we are looking at race weekend at the start of October. Special racing at the Roval, and we're going to have a little bit about all the events that surround that. We're going to see some video from the track as well, so it's going to be a good time. Stay tuned. That'll be on in a couple of weeks. Jonathan, once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you here in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much. And once again, if you are interested in anything we're talking about, you have a comment, you have an idea for a guest, you have an idea for somebody who has a collection that they have, somebody who works in the automotive, the local automotive culture, maybe it's a car club, it could be a motorcycle club. Doesn't matter. If it's on wheels, we'll take it. Carolina Rides has a social media presence. We would love to hear from you. See us on Facebook at Carolina Rides, our YouTube channel at Carolina Rides WSPA, and we're also on Instagram, Carolina Rides Official WSPA. Love to hear from you. Love to get some ideas, and let's get the word out. Let's keep this going as long as we can, and talk about the car culture across the Carolinas and beyond. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Carolina Rides. See you next time. Until then, drive safely.